Welcome to my channel. Today, we're exploring Stellar Defiance, a sci-fi journey where humanity stands strong and defies the odds across the galaxy. Dive into epic starship battles, powerful tech, and the resilience that makes us unstoppable in a universe full of challenges. If you're ready for a thrill-packed adventure in deep space, hit subscribe, and let's get started. In the distant future, when humanity had spread out across the stars and begun to interact with countless other species, the defining characteristic of their existence was a deep and profound sense of community. It was not simply a cultural trait that held their societies together, it was the very foundation upon which humanity built their civilization. This sense of unity was not just about the bond between individuals or nations, but about the shared understanding that the strength of one was tied to the strength of all. In a universe where countless species often struggled with internal divisions, egos, and fractured societies, humanity's communal approach was an anomaly, one that became a beacon of hope and inspiration for alien civilizations on the brink of collapse. As humanity ventured deeper into the galaxy, it became evident that many of the species they encountered were struggling with internal conflict, division, and a lack of cohesion. Whether from centuries of war, systemic inequality, or fractured political structures, countless alien civilizations had fractured under the weight of their own differences. These species found themselves divided along racial, cultural, or ideological lines, conflicting factions fighting for power, resources, and dominance. Their societies, once capable of great feats of technological or social achievement, now teetered on the brink of disintegration. The peaceful cooperation of different groups seemed like a distant dream. In such circumstances, the very idea of unity seemed impossible. It was during these early encounters that humanity's communal strength began to have its first profound effect on the galaxy. Initially, humans were seen as just another young species, driven by the same impulses that many of the older, more powerful civilizations had long since outgrown. However, it quickly became apparent that humanity's approach to society was different. Where other species prioritized individual ambition or sought to consolidate power into the hands of a few, humans placed a tremendous value on working together as a collective. This emphasis on unity, on the importance of collaboration and mutual respect, became their greatest strength. As humanity made contact with alien species, they began to share their philosophy, a philosophy rooted in empathy, shared sacrifice, and the belief that no individual, no matter their background or status, was above the community as a whole. At first, this philosophy of unity was met with skepticism. Many alien species found it difficult to comprehend how a species so diverse, with so many different cultures, backgrounds, and beliefs, could function as a cohesive unit. To them, unity seemed like an unattainable ideal, a utopian dream that was bound to collapse under the weight of competing interests. The idea that a species could not only live in harmony with itself, but also extend that sense of cooperation and mutual respect to other civilizations was, in many ways, an alien concept. For some, it seemed like a naive fantasy, a concept that could never survive in the harsh realities of interstellar politics and power dynamics. However, as humanity began to interact with more and more species, the results of their communal approach began to speak for themselves. The first breakthrough came when humanity worked with a war-torn planet on the brink of civil war. The species that inhabited the planet, once united under a single banner, had fractured into two hostile factions, each vying for control of the planet's dwindling resources. The divisions were deep, social, political, and even cultural, making reconciliation seem impossible. Generations of distrust and hatred had left the planet in ruins, and its people were on the verge of complete destruction. Humanity's intervention was not one of military might or top-down governance. Instead, they approached the situation with empathy and understanding, focusing not on taking sides, but on bringing both factions together. The human leaders, skilled in diplomacy and negotiation, encouraged both factions to listen to each other, to recognize the common humanity they shared, and to set aside their differences for the greater good of their world. It was not an easy process. Old wounds ran deep, and trust was hard to come by. But the humans' unwavering belief in the power of community and cooperation began to work its magic. Slowly but surely, the two factions began to see past their animosities, realizing that their survival as a species depended on unity. The process took time, and it was fraught with challenges. But ultimately, the people of that war-torn world were able to forge a new, more inclusive society, one that sought to bridge the divides of the past and create a future where everyone had a place. The success was remarkable, not because humanity had solved the problem with some grand technological innovation or military intervention, but because they had shown the inhabitants of the planet that unity, while difficult, was possible. It was a lesson that would reverberate throughout the galaxy. Other species soon began to take notice. An ancient, highly advanced race known for their isolationist tendencies, the Ladhari, observed the efforts of humanity and began to reconsider their own approach to interstellar relations. The Ladhari had long prided themselves on their self-sufficiency and disdain for other species, believing that their intellectual and cultural superiority made them a solitary power in the galaxy. Yet, after witnessing the success of humanity in restoring peace to the fractured world, they began to question whether their isolation had led them to stagnate. The Ladhari invited humans to their world, and after much negotiation, humanity was able to help them form a new alliance between the various factions within their own species, factions that had long been at odds. The Ladhari, once divided by centuries of cultural schisms, saw the potential in humanity's example and worked to embrace the idea of community over division. But it was not just the older, more established species that benefited from humanity's example. Many of the galaxy's younger or more chaotic civilizations, struggling with their own internal conflicts, saw in humanity's model a potential path forward. The Drillari, a species that had recently emerged from the shadows of war and revolution, had been divided between multiple factions that often clashed violently. They had achieved limited space travel and had only just begun to make contact with other species. Their future, however, seemed uncertain, as their society had been fractured for generations. Despite their technological potential, they struggled with internal strife and widespread disillusionment. When the Drillari encountered humanity, they were initially hesitant, unsure whether their cultural differences could be reconciled. However, human representatives skilled in negotiation and reconciliation worked tirelessly to listen to the Drillari people, to understand the nuances of their struggles, and to demonstrate the power of community. Rather than imposing their values upon the Drillari, humans encouraged the species to find their own path toward unity, offering assistance in building infrastructure, resolving conflicts, and fostering cooperation between their fractured factions. It was a slow and difficult process, but over time, the Drillari began to form a more cohesive society. They looked to humanity as a source of inspiration, learning that unity did not require uniformity. They learned that it was not necessary for all individuals to agree on everything, but that the key to strength lay in a shared commitment to the greater good. For humanity, these successes were not just about helping other species. They were about something deeper, a profound belief in the power of community to overcome adversity. Humanity's internal journey had been one of trial and error, learning the hard lessons of history, of conflict, and of division. But over the course of millennia, humans had come to understand that their strength lay not in their individual brilliance, but in their collective resilience. They had learned to work together despite their differences, to build societies that prioritized cooperation and mutual support. And it was this philosophy that they carried with them into the stars. As humanity's influence spread across the galaxy, they began to foster alliances and coalitions between species that had once been enemies. The Union of Galactic Peace, an interstellar alliance that brought together dozens of once warring species, was founded on the principles that humanity had demonstrated unity through mutual respect, cooperation, and understanding. The once fractured species of the galaxy, who had long been at odds with one another, found in humanity a shared model for coexistence. Over time, these species began to work together on a scale that had never before been possible, collaborating on everything from scientific research to ecological restoration to interstellar defense. The idea of cooperation, inspired by humanity's example, became the bedrock upon which the future of the galaxy was built. One of the most significant shifts in galactic politics came when humanity played a key role in mediating peace between two long-standing enemies, the Ivans and the Kalins. The Ivans were a species known for their pride and strict code of honor, while the Kalins were a more technologically advanced race, but with a history of aggression. The two species had been in a state of constant war for centuries, each believing that their way of life was superior. The humans, seeing the futility of the conflict, brought both sides to the negotiation table. Using the lessons of empathy, shared sacrifice, and community that had guided their own rise, humanity worked to broker a peace that would allow both species to coexist and thrive. It was a monumental task, one that took years to accomplish, but in the end, the Ivans and Kalins found common ground and began to work together, inspired by humanity's example of unity. The success of humanity's model for unity was not without its challenges. There were always those who resisted change, who clung to old ways of thinking, or who saw unity as a threat to their power. Yet, over time, the power of community began to speak for itself. As more and more species came together in harmony, the galaxy as a whole became stronger, more interconnected, and more peaceful. The once fractured civilizations of the galaxy found new hope and purpose, drawn together by the shared ideals that humanity had brought to the stars. In the end, humanity's strongest contribution to the galaxy was not its technology, not its military might, and not its scientific discoveries. It was its ability to inspire unity in fractured species. Where others had seen division, humanity saw opportunity. Where others had given up hope, humanity showed that unity was not only possible but essential. Through their sense of community, humanity had forged a new path for the galaxy, one in which cooperation, empathy, and mutual respect would guide the future. And in doing so, they had proven that, no matter the challenges, no matter the divisions, a united galaxy was the key to a prosperous and peaceful future.